Hey, On the Run with Beards and Dunn is back for another episode. Hey, Beards, how's your day going?
Hey, it's going good, Dunn. You know, we're at this going on. Gosh, it's hard to believe we're starting to head into the end of July, and but the water temperatures are warm. But the fish are still biting, especially the bass. When the water warms up to its highest point, which up here in northern Minnesota is somewhere in the low to mid 70s, the metabolism on the bass just goes through the roof, and they are on the chew. And we've been catching a lot of fish, still getting some walleyes, but no, it's a great time to be outside and be on the water.
Beards, your knowledge of fishing, it just blows. I thought I have a good knowledge of maybe physiology and stuff, but you're you're like the physiologist of fish. You know, it's like if you want to know how do fish think, talk to Dick.
Done. Let me tell you, there's days still though that the fish always have the upper hand. You can go out there and you think you're going to whack them, and it makes it a tough day, but it's still fun being out there.
You know, and it's kind of like, we'll bring this back to running. It's kind of that way with running. You know, sometimes you wake up or with me cycling, you go, man, I feel pretty good today. I'm going to get up and go for a ride or run.
Right.
And you get out there and you go, oh, geez, hopefully I start feeling a little better. And hopefully, you know, and maybe halfway through, you're like, all right, we're taking the shortcut back to the house here, you know, and you kind of sit and try to analyze, what did I do that made me feel, and you always go, maybe I didn't have enough water. I'm dehydrated.
You just don't know.
And you thought you're doing everything right, but what you do is you persevere.
Right.
You know, you go, well, you know, if you can put your finger on something, you might say, well, I'm going to change that up or something like that. But yeah, that's the cool thing about life. It's a little bit.
But Don, speaking of, you mentioned cycling.
Oh, the
I
Tour
know
de France.
I know you're a huge cycling fan, and the Tour de France. What's going on with that? Is it?
It's
over, still going on? It's over.
No,
okay.
It's over. Yeah. You know, I just love watching those athletes because they're doing stuff like, you know, it's like watching elite runners.
Right.
You know, we always talked about you, Beards. We talk about, you know, these bikers, and you go, how in the world, you know, they make it look easy. And I go, well, yeah, if you got out there on the road beside him, it'd be fun to see how far. It's like, well, go run with Dick in his prime. How long did you think you'd hang? You know, and the people go, man, I couldn't go a mile.
Okay, but
yeah.
Let me back up. Okay, because to me, you're like the best cyclist I've ever known in my life.
That's not saying much.
Okay, so let's say you got into a ride in the Tour de France, could you hang with that? You know how they have that huge pack?
Yes, it's a common question that people like to throw out, and bikers talk about that too. And then, as most people know, with cycling, you have aerodynamics. You know, there's two things you have to overcome in cycling: gravity and air resistance. And so, gravity is obviously climbing a hill or a mountain that's going to work against you. So you want to be as light as possible. You don't want to carry extra weight. They call it about that, you know, weight to watts ratio. But on the flats or the not so hilly courses, it's aerodynamic. So all the bikes now are made in wind tunnels, so they go through the air like a bullet, and drafting. And it's so much fun. You know, you can ride with somebody, and it's kind of like with running a little bit. With running, you get, I've read 2 to 3% energy savings, which doesn't sound like much, but let's be honest, when you're on the edge of like, man, I don't know if I can run too much faster, but if you can save 2 to 3%, that's kind of falling in. I remember you talking about Beppu running straight into the wind, how the Silk brothers got behind you. Well, what good did that do? They were working less hard than you were.
Absolutely.
And so that was it. Now in cycling, it can be as much as 30 to 40% energy savings.
Holy cow.
So when you watch the tour and you go, why do they ride in that big bunch like that? You know, why doesn't one of those guys just take off and leave the rest? Well, he's bucking the wind all by himself all the way to the finish. That's why most of these elite guys have teammates that protect them, keep them out of the wind, give them water. They don't have to waste any energy. It's all energy conservation. And these guys are just so much fun to watch. And
so
it kind of leads into our topic. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, let me just back up 1 second. Okay, you're on a flat course.
Yeah,
okay,
how far could I
flat?
I could ride with
Could
them
you hang with the pack for quite a while?
I think so. You know, even though they're rolling 25 to 30 miles an hour, I have ridden with guys in a pack at 25. Remember, I came up and did around Lake Itasca, and you were out there
I remember
supporting me. Yeah, because
yes.
I did. Dick was my what do they call it? My director sportif. He was my sonneur. He was my helper. And I didn't want to stop in a 100-mile ride to like get a fresh bottle of water. So Dick would drive along and hand it to me outside our van, because a lot of the guys that were trying to be competitive had people out there giving them stuff as they were going. And I think I rode like 3 hours and 52 minutes for 100 miles. So that's over 25 miles an hour.
Dang.
But I was I never put my nose into the wind. If I did, you kind of do it because you want to not be what's known as a wheel sucker. Somebody who doesn't do their fair share of the work.
Exactly.
But in a group of 40 guys, if you roll through for maybe, let's say even a half a mile, which is a minute and a half. Now, if everybody does that, you only have to do it 2 times.
Right.
And you're saving energy. But the way is to have energy. That you've got so much you can afford to have it. And we're going to talk about interval training, Beards.
Yes.
And I know intervals is kind of one of those things that a lot of runners ignore. When I was running well, and I'm not, I know you did intervals, I did intervals. All the guys who want to run fast, I guess I'm trying to come and say it as common sense as I can. If you want to run fast, you got to practice running fast.
Right.
And so the problem with intervals is they're not a lot of fun.
No,
you can
I dreaded them.
Me too. It was kind of like race day, but it wasn't a race, so we didn't have that kind of monkey on your back. But it was something we took seriously, and you had to, because to get the maximum out of it, you really had to kind of mentally. Again, that's key. Be prepared for it.
It is.
But let's look at it this way. Let's start. You got a novice, hasn't run a step, but he wants to start running. You know what I'm going to tell him? Start walking. And build yourself up to maybe where you can walk nonstop for 20 to 30 minutes, nonstop. Yeah. And most people go, well, I'm pretty sure I can do that now. Okay, go do it. And if they come back in 30 minutes and the next day their calves or knee, well, eventually if they stick with it, 20 to 30 minutes,
and that's
every
the
day,
key, sticking with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, eventually they go, hey, I'm doing that 30 minutes. I'm starting to feel pretty good. Now I'd like to start running. I'll go, okay. Start with walking again. But after 5 minutes of walking, break into I call it a dog trot, a jog, an easy gait, and see. Now you can do it 2 ways. You can look at your watch and say, I'm going to try to run for a certain period of time, a minute, and then I'll break. But boy, that could be the longest minute of your life. Or go till you get really uncomfortable. Really, I got to stop. Okay, walk. And now you walk for another 5 minutes.
And you want to keep moving, though, not just stop.
Exactly. You're still moving. Good point. You're not sitting down in a bus stop or something like that.
Right.
But you keep moving. You might only do 2 or 3 running intervals. Did you hear that word? During that 30 minutes. Because, every time you did it, it was so taxing. You got uncomfortable. It became a point where you had to I have to either stop or at least slow down. Yep. Slow down to a walk. When you feel you're able. Now that's another thing, the duration of the quote rest.
Yes.
It might take you 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Right.
You say, I think I'm going to try that again. Now the problem is if you never try it again, because you say it was too uncomfortable. Well, maybe don't go quite as far the next run, 30 seconds. I don't know, and that's the 3 variables. The length or time that you're going to do it, how many you're going to do, and the recovery. Those are it's endless. You can put those 3 things together a million different ways.
Absolutely you can.
But did you hear the thing I kind of talked about? Uncomfortable. You have to make yourself uncomfortable to run faster, because what happens is we're running in what's called anaerobic, and this is that exercise physiology, lingo stuff again, where you're producing, they call it waste products. Everybody talks about lactic acid. And yes, lactic acid is, they always say that's the problem. Well, it's actually these things called hydrogen ions that cause the pain and the burn, but lactic acid is right there beside it. And so lactic acid got the rap. Even though we recycle lactic acid for energy, it's not a bad thing, because if you train a lot, you can use lactic acid for energy.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, hydrogen ions, and it's kind of not talked about because who cares? It's all chemistry,
right?
And but it's uncomfortable when you produce lactic acid, and it builds up, and your muscles start to burn. They start to fatigue. They don't want to work properly anymore. And your breathing is going through out of control because you're developing, more carbon dioxide. You're trying to blow that off, get rid of these waste products through our breath, carbon dioxide, get the oxygen in. And so it's uncomfortable. Discomfort is just part of the game. I don't know, Beers, you're a coach, and I'm sure the people you're coaching, I would think it's young kids as athletes. I hope junior high coaches, you need to kind of get your head wrapped around that. It's between the ears again. You have to, I use the term embrace the discomfort. I hate to say embrace the pain. It all sounds a little bit masochistic.
But you kind of got to.
You've got to find satisfaction in it because it's going to be there. I've had people say to me, yeah, you run really good. You look so great. I go, well, you should come see me on my interval nights. I don't look so good because I'm usually slobbering and I'm fatigued but it pays off. It pays off.
Yes. And the more you do those, again, that's not a workout you do every single day.
Ooh,
obviously,
we're going to get into that. Yeah, how often?
Yeah, but you will feel yourself starting to get in better and better shape, and mentally, it's like, whoa, this is working.
Even in cardiac rehab, we have a program. It's called HIIT, High Intensity Training, and you're going to say this. Whoa! You're taking people that have heart disease, have had heart attacks, have had bypass surgeries, have had heart transplants, and you're having them do intervals? You bet. Yeah. If you do it safely, if you know what you're doing, and you go, well, what's that mean? Well, just what I described. You go at a pace that's very warm up. You're going at a pace that's comfortable. And then you either pick up, let's use the treadmill if they're in a controlled environment. You either speed up the treadmill, and typically we'd put the incline up.
Oh, yeah.
And if anybody's run on a treadmill, you know what putting that incline up to 3 or 4% does to you, man. Whew, now you got gravity working against you.
Absolutely, you do.
But now here's the thing: you're going to keep it in a control. You're not going to go for 5 minutes like that. Now you may work up to that. Dick probably did some. I can't even imagine some interval workouts I'd want to replicate. But you might go for 20 to 30 seconds. You see your heart rate climbing, your rating of perceived exertion, your breathing rate. All at once are getting up to that point where we call it hard to very hard.
Yeah.
Hard to very hard is uncomfortable. Now, only you know when you're there. Because I've had guys, what Dick's hard to very hard would kill some people. Well, some people doing that jog, that jog is they're hard to very hard.
Right.
And they have to make that determination. Now, men are the worst because we're so pig-headed and stubborn. We'll
Egos.
go till we drop. Yeah, till you're red in the face and the bullets, the sweat. We'll go, how you doing? I'm fine. They'll tell me, you'll go, yeah, no, you're not fine. You lying. And so we have to kind of teach them to be smart. But then we use it with people. The gains you can make, just like you were saying, Dick, you go from just running on a regular basis and you get fit. You're losing weight. You're getting more efficient. Your muscles are toughening, your ligaments and tendons. Now we're just going to throw in this little, I don't know if you'd call it like a little spice into your training. And it can start off with anything like warm up and maybe do 1 minute at faster than you normally can run. It's that pace that you're going, man, I'm not sure I can do it. You can go to any kind of training books. They have all kinds of, what's the word, of pacing advice. A lot of people wear heart rate monitors. Cyclists now use watt meters to measure intensity of the energy they're outputting. So they know these Tour de France guys can go well over 400 watts for extended periods of time. Very few of them can do 500 watts for extended periods of time. This Tadej Pogačar, he's a winner of the Tour, and there's the other guy that his name escapes me from the other team. These guys weigh about 125 pounds, but their power is off the charts. And so they can go up over 500 watts on these climbs and hold it for a lot longer than anybody else can. And that's what.
So are watts more important than the heart rate?
Yes. Heart rate's really variable. A lot of stuff can affect your heart rate, dehydration, hot temperatures. If you're just excited, Beards, I wonder what your heart rate was at the starting line of the Boston Marathon.
Oh my gosh, off the charts.
Exactly. And you hadn't even taken a step yet.
No.
Now, it probably went down once you got started because you relaxed.
Yes.
In the environment.
Yes.
And stuff. But the whole key is it's adaptation. And the biggest thing is these waste products that we develop, we want to try not to develop them as quickly so we can run at a faster pace longer before we have to slow down. We'll call it just lactic acid. And so, the Norwegians, we were talking about Jacob Ingebrigtsen, who's just the Olympic gold medalist at 1500. He's a world record holder at 2 mile. I mean, the guy is phenomenal. But they use they do blood testing. Lance Armstrong talked about it. Now, Lance can be controversial. He's a smart guy and had some really good coaches. Chris Carmichael, some Italian coaches who also did some other things that aren't so acceptable, some, doping products and stuff.
Right.
I think that's pretty common knowledge. But some of these guys are brilliant. And he said they did their intervals just short of their anaerobic threshold. And people go, anaerobic threshold, what's that? That's the pace you can run for like 30 minutes or bike for 30 minutes, which is as fast as you can go. So let's say, Beards, I know in your prime, I wonder if you ran a sub 30-minute 10K at 28 to 29 minutes.
Yeah,
your heart rate was probably, I'm going to guess 180.
I would think so, probably.
You were in your 20s, and so 220 minus your age and all that kind of stuff. And so if you were saying, now that's race pace, you could hold that. Well, when you do your intervals, you rarely would run. I mean, you would do your intervals at that, and this is what Engelbertson says, and Armstrong said his coach would do. Just you'd push that. You're trying to push that level higher.
Yes.
But if you go past it, it can become counterproductive.
Right.
When you force your mind so strong, oh, this is killing me. I'm going to force my body one more lap to try to break it, which unfortunately stress fractures, tendonitis, mental burnout.
Something's going to break down.
Yeah. So this is the danger. This is I guess it's too much of a good thing can be bad. But what I heard from Armstrong, and I think we probably saw it in ourselves, if you finished your interval and said, wow, whew, that was tough, and we're going to get you a 1 minute to recover. Good. But at the end of the minute, you're saying, okay, I'm ready to go, coach. Let's do another one.
Yeah.
And the key is we can talk about distance and time. You can start with 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. You can do pyramids where you might do 1, then you do a 2, then you do 3, and you're only taking the same rest, maybe 2 minutes in between each one.
Yeah.
But your pace during each interval should be the same.
Right.
Your pace from each one. If you're saying I'm going to do 10 400s, and you do I'm just going to throw out some numbers, 90 seconds, because that's 6 minute pace. And you hit 90, 89, 90, 92, 94, 96. Oh, see what's happening here?
Yeah.
You're dying. You're putting in the same effort, but your body's like, I can't do this. I have to go slower.
So do you start out slower then?
Yes. You want them to be all the same. Give it time. And I read one coach said, you want to finish that last interval. And if the coach said, could you do one more? You should be able to say, if I had to, I could.
Yes.
I think it's a pretty rotten coach who says, I've decided we're going to do one more, because we kind of dial in 10. I'm going to do 5 1 mile repeats. I've heard of coaches that will pull that on their athletes. I think it's a little bit of dirty pool.
Done. Yeah. You dial it in like our buddy Bill Winmark. I say, dial it in. And so you mentally get yourself prepared. And then if some coach says, yeah, we're going to do, instead of doing 6 today, which we just done, we're going to do one more. That's tough.
It is. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because maybe he's really seeing who was under control, who actually ran their, we'll just say 5 1 minute, 1 mile intervals or whatever on a park or on a track, wherever you do them. And maybe he's just seeing, can he do one more at the same pace, or was he overreaching on his 5th one, and he shouldn't, so I'm not going to say, but yeah.
Done. Like you said, though, then you're walking that line where something could break down, overtrain, like you said, mentally, physically, whatever.
Yeah. And the other thing about it, these are hard. There's nowhere around it.
They are.
Intervals, hills, repeats, because you are pushing the threshold. You're at that point of hard to very hard. The Borg perceived exertion chart, it's been around for years, and Gunnar Borg is a Swedish doctor, invented the chart. And I go with the 6 to 20 chart, where 6 is very, very easy and 20 is very, very hard. And people would look at that chart and go, well, what's that mean? Very, very hard. That's the kind of effort it would take to run up a hillside with a 50-pound pack on your back with a pack of dogs chasing you.
Gosh.
That's very, very hard. Now, how far?
That's very, very hard.
That's as hard as, that's a 20. We don't ever want you to go there.
No.
It's almost like taking a car and saying, I wonder how fast my car will go. I'm going to take it out on a stretch of road and put the pedal to the metal and see are you an idiot? Your car could blow up. You could have lots of things could go wrong.
Exactly.
So lots of things can go wrong when we overextend as well. And a lot of people say, well, if I do sprint over faster than I can ever run, I'm going to get faster. You'll probably pull tendonitis, ligament damage. It's your form. Is it going to pot? And if you watch those Engelbretson guys, and if you ever get to YouTube, I mentioned YouTube a lot.
It's amazing.
They have a training. They had I can't remember the show, but it's like Keeping Up with the Kardashians, but it's Keeping Up with the Engelbretsons. And it shows them training. They're kind of secretive. They don't show everything because they don't want everybody to know it shows them doing lactate testing where they test they're staying sub-threshold. And what that means is there's a certain level of lactic acid in your blood. Once it begins above a certain level, and it's 4 millimoles, it's a measurement, your workout's over. Workout's over. You're producing waste product faster you can get rid of. Any more work we're doing now is really wasted, and it's just going to cause injury, illness, burnout. Now, again, how do I find that place? Well, if you have blood testing, you can buy this thing for about $200. You have to poke yourself in the finger all the time. Nobody wants to do that.
Back up here. Yeah. Let's say for the average runner, though, that they're not going to be able to buy that stuff or they don't know. So where do they...
Yeah, perceived exertion.
That's what it is.
Yeah, okay. And so when you run a 5K, 10K, we're something around 30 minutes, 20 to 30-minute effort. And really a race or a time trial, I mean, it's hard to, Beards, do we ever run harder than we do in a race?
No.
And if you ran a race and you said, man, I ran a 5K and I PR'd, I felt great. You must have paced it well. And if you said my heart rate averaged 170 for that 5K, if you have a heart rate monitor, not everybody have, how did it feel in here? In here, how did your effort feel? Try to remember that. So when you go out and do your next interval, which is going to be shorter than a 5K, you might do 400-meter repeats.
Yeah.
I want to get you up. Don't run harder than what you did in your 5K. And I know a lot of coaches use their 5K pace as it's kind of your threshold pace. You're at that level that you can maintain it. You're not overtraining, but it's not comfortable. And if you do it often enough, we're going to start raising it. And you're doing your long runs. You're getting your rest. Now, this is the most important thing of this whole little talk, whatever this lecture. Wake up, everybody. You don't want to miss this part.
No, I'm fascinated.
I learned it, and Dick knows it, but we didn't follow it all. Hard, easy. Hard, easy. And if it's really hard, you might have to go really easy, maybe more than one day. Now, when we were young in high school and college, Beards, I don't know about you, I couldn't wait for my next run.
Oh, yeah.
And that double days, we'd run in the morning and sit around and go, and look forward to the afternoon. Now, that's because our bodies were the hormonal levels, everything works so good. You could eat a ton. You never seemed to gain weight. And our recovery was there. And the most athletes and elites, they kind of know they built themselves up to this. As you get older, so let's be honest, a 20-mile run or a long run, whatever that is for you, it could be a 5-mile run. It could be up to a 30-mile run. That's not an easy effort. Even though the pace might be easy, it's just the duration. So what's Monday going to be if you did it on Sunday? I always did mine on Sunday. Some people do their long runs on a Saturday because they might. I know Ed Eyestone and some of these really great runners would take Sunday off.
Right.
I think because of their religion. They were Mormons and they just, that was part of their practice. And their coach kind of, I think Ed Eyestone, I don't know the guy, I haven't read his stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if they work so hard the other 6 days of the week. Give your body and mind a day of off. Now, if that works for you, fantastic. I loved running too much, and I would just make sure I didn't, instead of taking days off, my days I would want to run, but run easy. I have a little buddy, Al Strottmeyer, and Al and Dick knew him. And I was in college when he was in high school. He was in high school when I was out of college. And so he was kind of my easy day training partner because that ensured Al's pace felt easy to me, and I'm not, saying he was slow. He was an excellent runner, but it made it easier for me to go run with Al on my easy days. He never would go do intervals with me. We did it a couple times where I did 1,300. It's a weird 1,200 meters. It's 3 laps.
Yeah.
He'd run the first lap with me in like 65. I'd run the next lap alone. And then he'd jump back on the track with me and do the last one in 65. So I was getting 3, a pretty good workout. He was there kind of pulling me the first quarter. I'd work the second one by myself. He was there to help me. I know the Engelbretson, if you watch, they have an e-bike. When they're doing intervals, their coach or somebody, a training partner, is leading them on an e-bike. So they're kind of used to running behind like another runner, I guess. And it's pacing them to the right pace. But I see this all the time that some athletes use other athletes as pacers and what have you.
Done.
The key is you got to recover. You got to let your body adapt.
I want to back up just a little bit. So you talked about, when you run that race and you're at your maximum at that threshold or something,
right.
You want to try to
keep
maximize that in intervals in training.
Yep.
Okay, but done. There's something magic
goal pace
when you put on the number,
and
it can feel so much easier. And when you try to duplicate that in a workout, why does it seem so much more difficult to get there?
Joe Henderson he called it the magic of race day. Remember that?
There is a magic of race day.
And I don't know, I'm not going to quote Joe Henderson because he's forgotten more about running than I ever know.
Right.
But I think he talked about, he always felt that 20 miles was enough. I think he thought the risk benefit of going longer for his, and again, he was coaching maybe more of, I don't want to call it amateur level athletes, which doesn't mean they were bad runner. They were just not elitist. And he kind of felt once he got him up to 20 and they could do a 20 miler and kind of get done and go, wow, that felt good.
Yeah.
His theory was the magic of race day will get him through that last 6 months.
Yes.
They mentally know what it's like to get fatigued, to run tired, and you'll be okay. Don't worry about it. Now, some people would say, I want to run 26 miles in practice so I can know I say this with a smile on my face because my little buddy Al Stratmeyer, the first time he did the Jack 15 with me, and he got through it and he ran pretty well. But he told me on the way home, he goes, Mike, I was so nervous that I could run 15 miles. I went out yesterday, the day before, and did a 15-mile run. He needed the confidence. And I just laughed and shook my head, because he didn't.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, it is. We can laugh about it now. I probably should have, you wanted to come alongside the head and go, well,
right.
That definitely didn't help you today. He did a 15 miler the day before he ran 15 miles to make sure he could do 15 miles. And that's he was like 13, 14 years old. And bless his heart, and Al's gone. And
that's
I
a great story.
It is a good story. Anyway, but back to this, if you can, that's why the intervals are hard. Racing is hard. If you're saying I'm trying to run fast. Now, a lot of people that are listening to this might say, I'm not racing for time. I'm not racing to try to win. I'm not trying to get age group things. I enjoy the feeling I get when I run, and it's fun to go to a race and run with people because it's so exciting. I mean, the atmosphere, there's aid stations. Some of these races have just great, music, bands, cheerleaders, all this stuff. And some of them have costumes. And people are like, this is just a great social outing for me. I don't know if you want to spend any time doing intervals.
No.
You might just want to be out there running, enjoying running for the sake of running longer occasionally just to see if you can. And then maybe you might want to jump into a longer event, not to try to win the darn thing, but to finish it. Now, again, I think Dick and I would say, but you know what? That little spice of an interval once a week, or maybe, a little fartlek, and we'll talk about that in the future, could maybe open up a new window for you of enjoyment. Or not.
You know what? I tell people this. If you're not into, like, I don't want to do speed work, like 3 times a week at the end of your run, if you do 8 to 10 100-meter stride outs, just getting those legs turned over, it's amazing how much that'll improve your race times just doing that.
And that's I'm glad you mentioned that, Dick, because, going back to what we did, I followed my college, my coach in college, Jay Dirksen, and then Scott Underwood. They followed pretty much a marathon training guide.
Right.
We did a long run Sunday. Monday was an easy 5 in the morning and 8 200-meter strides, just what Dick described. And Dick did it with us. And we were laughing, and the Bills boys are trying to stick leaves down our shorts.
It's not like you're sprinting.
No.
It's just get the legs turned over. Maybe a 75% effort or something at best.
And it was striding out. And after that long run, what's kind of like that shorter stride we might have been using it for a 20, it really it was like stretching. It was opening you up.
It felt
They were non-competitive. They weren't jogs. But they weren't all-out sprints.
No, and it felt good, though.
Yeah, they were just sprints. Then the next day, we would do some form of intense interval. Jay Dirksen, I know, and I think he got this from Bill Dillinger and Bill Bowerman at Oregon. They talked about date pace. And that's basically running at what's your race pace today? Occasionally, and again, this is getting into elitist stuff, they would do what's called a goal pace. So I know Jay asked me my freshman year, he goes, what's your goal for like the 2 mile? And I said, I'd like to break 9 minutes. So okay, good goal. Then we had a time trial. We did our first, and I think I ran like 9:18 for 2 miles in a race. Well, that became our date pace. That was the pace we did all of our training at. But towards the end of the season, we would get a few shorter goal pace, you wanted to say, if I can't even do it in my head. A 9 minute is about 68 second quarters. All right. That's a 9:04 2 mile. And so if we were doing 71, 72, 73s all the time, but our eventually goal was to run 68s, we would throw in a few of those towards the end of the season just to kind of,
absolutely.
Again, let's skip through that for now. I think race pace is where you want it. That's where the money is. Because if I did 68 second quarters when my ability was at 72 second quarters, I was overreaching, overtraining. I did get hurt a lot up on that indoor track at SDSU because of the corners.
Who wouldn't?
Anyway, and so I'm kind of saying don't always do. I think I might have overreached and done intervals. Didn't give my body enough rest often enough.
That's the key.
That's the key, and the motivation we had just kind of kept us out there. And again, it's addicting. Intervals also, endorphins. We might as well just be honest about it. Endorphins, if you take the word in Latin, it means the morphine within.
Right.
And I don't know if anybody knows anything about morphine, and Dick, I'm not going to give you any jokes about this or anything.
No, that's all right.
But morphine, I've had it, Demerol or morphine. I liked it.
Oh, I feel good.
I felt good. The first time I had surgery. They gave me a shot of this stuff. I didn't enjoy getting a shot, but the next time they came to give me my second shot, I rolled right over. That needle didn't bother me. I was
right there with you.
Anyway, the third time I wanted the shot, they shut me off. They put me on Motrin then, something, because they said, "Nuh-uh, you've had enough of that." Because I was psychologically addicted like that. I wasn't physically addicted. And that's a dangerous slippery slope that people find themselves in, and I know you can speak to that. But the point being is, you can do this and have that pretty good feeling. I think Dick gets it fishing. I still get it biking.
Oh yeah,
I get it talking to Dick on these podcasts.
Right back at
I'm so
you.
Pumped. But the whole key is that's that little world that's out there, and I'd encourage people. Just what Dick said. You finish your run and you go, I feel, gosh, it's a nice soft flat grass over there.
Yeah.
100-yard stride out. It's faster than you normally run. And when you get to the end of the 100, you're going to go, I want to slow down. Yeah, slow down. Jog your way back and do that again 6, 7, 8 times. Maybe the next week you build up. Maybe you get it to where you can do 10 of those things. Now guess where you're headed? Maybe you go a little longer. 150 yards. And I'm not saying you got to do it.
No.
It's an option that's out there for everybody.
It's great.
It's a lot of fun. All right, let's cut this one off, Vince.
Oh, my gosh. Well, listen, we want to thank everybody again for listening. And if you have any questions for Dunn or myself, comments about the show, you can contact us directly at our website at beardsanddunpod.com, or please leave us a comment on our Facebook, Instagram, or X, all at Beards and Dunn Pod.
Hey, yeah, and if you're on YouTube, don't be afraid to subscribe. We'd love to hear from you. Beards, I hope you're having a great day, bud.
Oh, you too, buddy. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, take care, bud.
Yeah, bye-bye.